Astute Quotations, Part 11. A great composer does not imitate, he steals. Igor Stravinsky. Immature poets imitate, mature poets steal. T.S. Eliot. The secret is to follow the advice the masters give you in their works while doing something different from them. Artist Edgar Degas. The best and fastest way to learn a sport is to watch and imitate a champion. Jean-Claude Killy, gold medalist skier. The best classroom of all times was about 2 car lengths behind Juan Manuel Fangio, racer Sterling Moss, speaking of the Formula One champ. My greatest teacher was not a vocal coach, nor the work of other singers, but the way Tommy Dorsey breathed and phrased on the trombone. Frank Sinatra. Context has no time. It allows time. Werner Erhard. A person is neither a thing nor a process, but an opening, a clearing, through which the absolute can manifest. Martin Heidegger. The sources of invention are, in my opinion, more interesting than the inventions themselves. Gottfried Leibniz, 1646 to 1716. The young man knows the rules, but the old man knows the exceptions. Oliver Wendell Holmes. I try not to break the rules, but merely test their elasticity. Bill Veeck, former owner of the Chicago White Sox. Stretch the rules to the breaking point. Cricket great Fred Truman. Study the rules so that you won't beat yourself by not knowing something. Babe Zaharias, the greatest female athlete of the 20th century. If your ball lands within a club length of a rattlesnake, you are allowed to move the ball. Posted at the Glen Canyon Golf Club in Arizona. The trouble with referees is that they know the rules, but they don't know the game. Bill Shankly, Liverpool manager. 95% of the capacity of the human mind remains dormant throughout life. Napoleon Hill. Few men during their lifetime come anywhere near exhausting the resources dwelling within them. Polar explorer Richard Byrd. The work of many of the greatest men, inspired by duty, has been done amidst suffering and trial and difficulty. They have struggled against the tide and reached the shore exhausted. Samuel Smiles from his book Self-Help, 1859. The duties of each moment are the shadows beneath which hides the divine operation. Jean-Pierre de Caussade, French Jesuit priest, 1675 to 1751. That statement right there indicates to me that he had more than a couple mystical experiences in his life, because that's the only way you can get that. Love can do much, but duty more. Goethe. You must first spend some time getting your model to relax. Then you'll get a natural expression. Norman Rockwell. My valleys are higher than most people's peaks. Dan Gable, Olympic gold medalist in wrestling in 1972. Morning dreams come true. English proverb also attributed to Ovid, Horace, Dante, and Dryden. And by the way, during the morning dream state, we are beginning, as far as I understand it, the daily transition from the alpha into the beta state of brainwave activity. Start off every day with a smile and get it over with. W.C. Fields. Imagination plays its part too in the game of pocket billiards, just as it does in any sport. Billiards great Willie Mosconi. The possible ranks higher than the actual. Martin Heidegger. The crashes people remember, but drivers remember the near misses. Mario Andretti. A problem adequately stated is a problem solved theoretically and immediately, and therefore subsequently to be solved realistically. Buckminster Fuller. The reward for being a good problem solver is to be heaped with more and more difficult problems to solve. Buckminster Fuller. What people call success is only preparation for the next failure. Playwright August Strindberg. The further the soul advances, the greater are the adversaries against which it must contend. Evagrius Ponticus, 4th century A.D. You know my method. It is founded upon the observation of trifles. Arthur Conan Doyle. A powerful idea communicates some of its strength to him who challenges it. Marcel Proust. 80% of all questions are statements in disguise. Dr. Phil McGraw. Let me tell you a question. The demeanor of some journalists at press conferences. We are suspended in language in such a way that we cannot say what is up and what is down. Physicist Niels Bohr. God gave humans language so they could conceal their thoughts from one another. Talleyrand. Take less time to read the scorecard and more time to read the whole. Chichi Rodriguez, World Golf Hall of Fame. Do the thing and you will have the power. Emerson. It seems to me that man is made to act rather than to know. The principles of things escape our most persevering researches. Frederick the Great, King of Prussia. Look that up in your Funkin' Wagnalls. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, perhaps one of the 5 greatest television programs ever. Life always gets harder towards the summit. The cold increases. Responsibility increases. Nietzsche. The road to Easy Street goes through the sewer. Former NFL coach John Madden. Water too pure breeds no fish. Chairman Mao. Difficulties increase the nearer we approach our goal. Goethe. Every great work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision, and often just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. Florence Scovel Shinn, from her book The Game of Life and How to Play It, 1925. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Bluto, from Animal House. The descent into the depths always seems to precede the ascent. Carl Jung. One rarely hears of people achieving great things unless they first stumble. Meister Eckhart. Steep and craggy is the path of the gods. Porphyry, from the 3rd century A.D. We make way for the man who boldly pushes past us. Writer Christian Nestel Bovee, 1820 to 1904. The greater and more beautiful the work is, the more terrible will be the storms that rage against it. Sister Mary Faustina Kowalska, 1905 to 1938. Among the cultivated and mentally active, hagiography, which is the biographies of saints, is now a very unpopular form of literature. Aldous Huxley. Every moment of every moment. Emanuel Swedenborg, 1688 to 1772. The lowest ebb is the turn of the tide. Longfellow. We learn geology the morning after the earthquake. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The way you react to adversity is the key to success. Tom Landry, former coach of the Dallas Cowboys. A great sailor can navigate even if the sail is ripped. Seneca the Younger, 1st century A.D. You will have to lose hundreds of games before becoming a good player. Jose Capablanca, Cuban chess grandmaster. Anyone who isn't confused doesn't really understand the situation. Edward R. Murrow, television newsman, commentating upon the Vietnam War. In life, understanding is the booby prize. Werner Erhard. True genius resides in the capacity for evaluation of uncertain, hazardous, and conflicting information. Winston Churchill. We are not meant to resolve all contradictions, but to live with them and rise above them. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. From Dr. Strangelove, 1964. If you're not confused, you're not paying attention. Management consultant and author Tom Peters. Life is doubt, and faith without doubt is nothing but death. Miguel de Unamuno, 1864 to 1937. A man once told me to walk with the Lord. I'd rather walk with the bases loaded. Ken Singleton, baseball player and Yankee announcer. Commitment is healthiest when it's not without doubt, but in spite of doubt. Psychologist Rollo May. The path of least resistance is the path of the loser. H.G. Wells. The rush into explanations is always a sign of weakness. Agatha Christie. No room for the weak. Joy Division, from Day of the Lords. The winds and waves are always on the side of the ablest navigators. Edward Gibbon, from his Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. We will either find a way or make one. Hannibal. The truth is not found in a different set of circumstances. The truth is always and only found in the circumstances you've got. Werner Erhard. Bad times have a scientific value. These are occasions a good learner would not miss. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The truth is forced upon us very quickly by a foe. Aristophanes. A goal is a dream with a deadline. One of these days is none of these days. English proverb. The busiest day of the week is often mañana. Spanish saying. What may be done at any time will be done at no time. Scottish proverb. Never do today what intuition says to do tomorrow. Florence Scovel Shinn, 1871 to 1940. That was one of the key insights from some of my personal mystical experiences, which were extremely powerful, that there is a proper time to do things and that it is okay to let things go. Not everything has to be done right now. If the coach needs the job more than the player needs the coach, he can't effect change. All-time tennis great Yvonne Lendl. If you're in control, they're in control. Dallas Cowboys coach Tom Landry regarding his players. Good coaches for ski jumpers stand at the top of the slope and watch the jumpers prepare, rather than standing at the bottom and watching them land. Film director Roland Jaffe. More matches are lost through carelessness at the beginning than any other cause. Harry Vardon, 6-time winner of the British Open. Most mistakes are made before the club is swung. Harvey Penick, golf pro and writer. He perfected the art of gaining power by giving it away. Historian Gary Wills on George Washington. A leader is someone who puts their people in position to be successful. Mike Krzyzewski, basketball coach, Duke University. The first step is to enter the spiritual dimension, the alpha level, and determine what your purpose in life is. Jose Silva. It is the theory that decides what can be observed. Einstein. We see what we believe rather than what we see. Alan Watts. Long experience has taught me not always to believe in the limitations indicated by purely theoretical considerations. These, as we well know, are based on insufficient knowledge of all the relevant factors. Marconi. Science today is locked into paradigms. Every avenue is blocked by beliefs that are wrong, and if you try to get anything published by a journal today, you will run against a paradigm and the editors will turn it down. Fred Hoyle, astronomer. Buddy, can you paradigm? Heard on the street. Emotions become more violent when expression is stifled. Philo of Alexandria, 1st century AD. Most people act not according to their meditations and not according to their feelings, but as if hypnotized, based on some senseless repetition of patterns, which we can call tapes. Tolstoy, that was from Tolstoy. He didn't use the word tapes, but that's what he's talking about. But better die than live mechanically a life that is a repetition of repetitions. D.H. Lawrence, talking about the same thing there as Tolstoy. It's not a slam at you when people are rude. It's a slam at the people they've met before. F. Scott Fitzgerald. In duty, the individual finds his liberation from dependence on mere natural impulse. Hegel, giving us a clinic there on how to break free of those tapes. Getting hold of the difficulty deep down is what is hard, because if it is grasped, near the surface, it simply remains the difficulty it was. It has to be pulled out by the roots, and that involves our beginning to think about these things in a new way. The change is as decisive as, for example, that from the alchemical to the chemical way of thinking. The new way of thinking is what is so hard to establish. But once the new way of thinking has been established, the old problems vanish. Indeed, they become hard to recapture. For they go with our way of expressing ourselves, and if we clothe ourselves in a new form of expression, the old problems are discarded along with the old garment. Ludwig Wittgenstein, from his book Culture and Value. Every ceiling, when reached, becomes a floor upon which one walks as a matter of course and prescriptive right. Aldous Huxley. A man's mind will very generally refuse to make itself up until it be driven and compelled by emergency. Anthony Trollope, 1815-82. A sense of duty is useful in work, but offensive in personal relations. People want to be liked, not be endured with patient resignation. Bertrand Russell. Tyranny is always better organized than freedom. Charles Péguy, French poet and essayist, 1873-1914. Homer is new and fresh this morning, and nothing, perhaps, is so old and tired as today's newspaper. Charles Péguy. Few have heard of Fra Luca Pacioli, the inventor of double-entry bookkeeping, but he has probably had more influence on human life than has Dante or Michelangelo. Herbert Muller, historian. We should therefore claim, in the name of tolerance, the right not to tolerate the intolerant. Karl Popper. Ingratitude is the blackest of all faults. Judah ben Samuel, the Hasid, who died in 1217. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has not overcome them. When my sonnet was rejected, I exclaimed, "Damn the age! I will write for antiquity." Charles Lamb, 1775 to 1834. In most of mankind, gratitude is merely a secret hope for greater favors. Rochefoucauld, 1613 to 1680. One of us must go. Oscar Wilde, commenting on the wallpaper in his room where he was dying. A true genius is a mind of large general powers, accidentally determined to some particular direction. Samuel Johnson. Love and scandal are the best sweeteners of tea. Henry Fielding. There is something behind the throne greater than the king himself. William Pitt. And things have not changed one iota, have they? Excise, a hateful tax levied upon commodities and adjudged not by the common judges of property, but by wretches hired by those to whom the excise is paid. Samuel Johnson. Silence gives consent. Oliver Goldsmith, 1728 to 1774. If you are mediocre and you grovel, you shall succeed. Pierre de Beaumarchais, from his Marriage of Figaro. Virtue is not always amiable. John Adams. To do just the opposite is also a form of imitation. Georg Christoph Lichtenberg, 1742 to 1799. A true German can't stand the French, but he willingly drinks their wines. Goethe. Women sometimes forgive a man who forces the opportunity, but never a man who misses one. Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, Paragould, what a name, 1754 to 1838. A man's desire is for the woman, but a woman's desire is rarely other than for the desire of the man. Coleridge. We never do anything well until we stop thinking about the manner of doing it. William Hazlitt, 1778 to 1830. An honest politician is one who, when he's bought, stays bought. In skating over thin ice, our safety is in our speed. Emerson. There is always a certain meanness in the argument of conservatism, joined with a certain superiority in its fact. Emerson. And how little things change. He who knows only his own side of the case knows little of that. John Stuart Mill. Man's word is God in man. Tennyson. Well-timed silence has more eloquence than speech. Martin Tupper, 1810-1889. One on God's side is a majority. Wendell Phillips, 1811 to 1884. There's a lot of truth to that, but I can see how people can really twist that one in the wrong direction. A man in armor is his armor's slave. Robert Browning. For the creation of a masterwork in literature, two powers must concur: the power of the man and the power of the moment. And the man is not enough without the moment. Matthew Arnold, 1822 to 1888. Curtsy while you're thinking what to say. It saves time. Lewis Carroll. Your true pilot cares nothing about anything on earth but the river, and his pride in his occupation surpasses the pride of kings. Mark Twain, from Life on the Mississippi. Definition of lawsuit: a machine which you go into as a pig and come out as a sausage. Ambrose Bierce, from his his Devil's Dictionary. A man always has two reasons for what he does, a good one and the real one. A mugwump is a person educated beyond his intellect. Horace Porter, 1837 to 1921. The greater the ignorance, the greater the dogmatism. Sir William Osler, 1849 to 1919. The crudest lies are often told in silence. Robert Louis Stevenson. I never forget a face, but in your case, I'll make an exception. Groucho Marx. This completes Astute Quotations Part 11.